I said this morning before you weren't even here. I think one of my favorite people that I've met as being on the show. I meet a lot of people, but I don't always like them a lot after they leave. Steve-O is here with us.
Yeah,
how are you, buddy?
You know, I say the same thing about you. I love you.
I do know you do that, and I will tell you, there's very few people who, outside of being on the show, really still act and remember. You know, I watched an interview that you did with Gene Simmons the other day, and you were telling Gene Simmons about Craig Gass, and he obviously was familiar with him. But you even said, you were like, I was on a show, on the Mike Calta Show, and very few people do that. They don't go out of their way to give some love. And then when you were on with Jericho, you mentioned us a couple of times. Everybody always, if I don't see it, they report it back to me. So thank you for always being loyal.
You know, and like that's just muscle memory.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
And it was a really wild experience. I'll never forget.
Yeah, good.
When Craig Gass called in, pretending to be Tom Arnold, explaining that he'd relapsed.
Yeah.
God, what a talented guy Craig Gass is.
Oh, yeah. He's the best at that. Do you believe the story? Do you know why he's good at that? Why he's good at imitating other people?
I don't know.
Because his parents are deaf. And he grew up watching TV, and that's how he learned it. And I don't believe that story at all. I can't. I don't. He's like, I swear to God.
His parents and his sister, I believe. Like, his whole family's deaf. He's the only one. Which, by the way, he says about Lars, saying his whole family's retarded. And he's like, they're not retarded, they're deaf.
Wait, how did he say it?
They're retarded. But he does a great Lars, too.
Yeah.
And it's so funny.
So he says that because his family's deaf, he was able to mimic the people on TV because he was hearing the only people he was hearing talking, and I don't know what it is, but his Pacino is unbelievable.
So you're suggesting that he's a liar?
Yeah, something about him makes me think he's lying.
Yeah, he tells a story about how we were on, or supposed to be on, the roast of Gene Simmons, and that I was kicked out for peeing on Danny Bonaduce.
I remember that story.
Not true.
Oh, really?
I mean, I peed in a bottle
behind Danny Bonaduce.
Yeah. But it's better to say I peed on it. Yeah. But bless his heart. You know what do they say? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
For sure.
However, do not take that approach. I'm rigorously honest.
Yes, you're honest. So. To a fault. It's ridiculous. It's the one good thing about you that I love is the honesty, because I think I told you this when you were on the phone with us last time. The last time you were here, my son and I went to go see the show, and we went out there, and you said, hey, tickets were going okay, and then I went on your show, and then we sold a bunch of tickets. I was like, oh, great. You know? So you went out there, and you were like, how many came out here to see because of the Mike Calta Show? And it was like, and you looked at me, and right from the stage, you looked at me and went, that backfired. That's great.
You know, I think there are a lot of questions you can ask a big audience and not get like a really truthful response. Yeah. I genuinely believe that you really moved the needle.
Yeah, people find out that you're here. You know, I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, man. I thought that was great. Steve-O, it's hard not to look at the penis on your tattoo. Yeah. That's the one Post Malone put it on your right eye, above your right eyebrow.
How great was it to get on the radio with you beforehand? And I was so stressed out. Not that I was going to have a penis tattooed on my forehead, but that I was scared that I might not.
Right. That's true. You were like, I think it's going to happen. I don't know. Yeah. But can I tell you, though, that I honestly called you up today. I said, this is a guy I consider a friend. And I'm calling him up, and I'm going to talk him out of doing this. I'm going to be the one voice, and you just shut me down right away. You were like, if I listen to people who told me not to, and I went, he's right. He's made a whole career out of doing things that people told him.
You know, I remember when I was living in Florida when Jackass began.
Right.
And living with my sister, and I was working in a flea market circus.
Okay.
So I spent like 2 weeks or so bringing in 50-gallon storage bins.
Right.
To collect the elephant poo. There was a guy whose job was to clean elephant poo, and I said, not one turd leaves this compound. Not one turd. You put when my 50-gallon tub is full.
Yep.
I will present you with another one.
Okay.
Okay. Not
Okay.
one turd leaves this compound. I had so much elephant poo, and it was just fermenting. It had maggots like just crawling all up in there. And that was one of my first bits on Jackass at my sister's house. I laid out a kiddie pool, and we dumped every 50-gallon tub. We had a mountain of elephant poo in this kiddie pool. And I climbed up a 10-foot ladder and did all kinds of terrible acrobatics into the poo.
Oh, man.
And after the bit wrapped, the producers, they said, "Okay, now we're gonna clean up this elephant poo and stuff. We're gonna get this out of here." And I said, "Nope." That stays right there because I didn't want to be perceived as inconvenient. I'll deal with that. So we're going to go film for a few more days. I said, I'll come back. I'll clean it up. Not your problem. I wanted to be like, have a favorable impression.
Right. Steve-O takes care of his own poop. Yeah.
But we're talking about South Florida.
Yeah.
It's the
1,000
weather
degrees,
turns on a dime.
Or it rains, yeah.
Yeah, and so as soon as we left, it just became a torrential, tropical storm, like just rain pelting down. Like not only my sister's house was flooded.
Yeah.
It was a punami. Okay. I mean, it was the neighbor's house. My sister's house was just a swamp of poo. Oh. My sister was so mad. And when I got back, and she was just, and for what? And she says, and for what? Do you really think that putting your body in poo is going to make people like you? Do you really think this is something that's going to help you? And I was like, she made me a little nervous.
Do you constantly bring it up to her now?
Remember
when you thought the poo?
I would never do that. But it sticks in my mind as an example of like common sense would dictate that it's not like a good look to jump in elephant poop, but it worked out really well
for you. Yeah. If no one's jumped in elephant poop before, then it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Can I ask you? I don't know that I know this or that we talked. You're here in Florida. You're going to Clown College. You did all that stuff. Where is it that I know you were skateboarding. Where is it that you meet up with the Jackass guys for the first time?
It was remote. Even back in the day, it was a remote deal. There was this magazine called Big Brother.
Uh-huh.
It was just terrible.
What was it?
It was a skateboarding magazine.
Skateboarding, okay.
But it was really just a forum for filth.
Gotcha.
Masquerading as a skateboard magazine.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was, and that's why I loved it so much. It was so terrible, man. I mean, they went out of their way to be terrible. Like, did one of the covers, they dressed up a professional skateboarder as the devil with a pitchfork and had him do skateboard tricks over a legitimate stack of burning Bibles, stuff like that. And I mean,
90s shock jock stuff.
Just delicious, terrible stuff. I remember an article, the journalism was on point, super sophisticated, clever stuff. But the articles were how to short circuit an entire house, at a party, with just simple, basic aluminum foil.
Yeah.
Really terrible, terroristic things. And I just loved the magazine. And when one of their tours came through my town. I was living in Albuquerque at the time. I was just like, I'm getting in this magazine.
Right.
I don't care. And all I had to do was burn the skin off half my face.
Oh.
And I got my article. And
what did you do to burn the skin on your face?
I would spray large amounts of hairspray in my hair to light my hair on fire.
Oh my God.
So that somebody else could use my flaming hair as a fire-breathing torch.
Right.
But this time I wanted to make it special, so I had this professional skateboarder blow a fireball off my head, which I reached my hand into after dousing it with flammable liquid. Then my arm would be on fire and my head on fire, and then I would do a simultaneous fire-breathing backflip.
Jeez.
But because I wanted to reach my hand into it, I had it come from the side, and the professional skateboarder kind of didn't know what he was doing. He just blew the fireball point blank into my face. And so my head my whole face, everything from the shoulders up was engulfed in flames. And I thought, I better hurry up and do this fire breathing back really quick. You know, and I came up a little bit short, so I landed on my knees. My whole head's on fire, and I'm just flailing through this backyard, like trying to put it out. By the time I got the fire out, like all the skin on half of my face was in my hand, rolled up like a
Harvey
joint.
Dent.
Oh, that's a real injury.
It was the skin was rolled up like a joint in my hand, and somebody had like in the footage, somebody on camera somebody comes over and they go, "Dude, are you okay?" And I go, "Nah, not even."
How old are you at the time?
At that time, I would have been 23.
That's so...
I think 23-year-old Steve-O, and I had already hitchhiked from Albuquerque, where I lived, to Denver to audition for Clown College.
Oh my God!
But I had not yet found out if I'd been accepted or not.
Right.
Because it was hard to get into Clown College. It was
because that's a real deal school. Yeah.
Statistically harder to get into Clown College than Harvard.
Wow.
And so like I burned my face off. Like for the next 2 weeks, I've got all this ooze. Like just pus coming out of my face.
Yeah.
Like they scraped it down at the hospital that night. It's called a debriding.
Right.
So like to stop the dead skin, the
From
burnt
rotting.
skin will rot
Yeah.
and it'll get infected. So they have to scrape down to the bottom layer, and it's the most painful thing. So they scrape down to the bottom layer, but still for the next 2 weeks, pus and everything's oozing out. So when I wake up in the morning, I have to quite literally peel my pillow off my face. And they said I couldn't go out in the sun for 6 months. They said that and while I'm in the peel my pillow off my face stage, I get the call from Clown College that I've been accepted. And I'm like, oh man. So like I go to Clown.
Can I ask you a question? What are the requirements to get into Clown College?
Well,
like, did you have to audition?
Yeah, you had to audition. Yeah. The circus, the circus was always in 2 different places.
Okay.
There was the red unit and the blue unit.
Right.
And they would swap schedules every year so that like everybody knew that if they went to the circus, that they could go back to the circus the next year. It would be a totally different show.
Circus, okay.
And each unit went to 50 cities. So combined, the circus was in 100 cities every year.
Wow.
And they held auditions for Clown College in all 100 cities.
Oh, wow.
And like at mine, there was like at least 60 people showed up. So, you end up with...
What did you do for your audition?
They said, no, do not show up in clown makeup.
Uh-huh.
They don't want anybody with clown experience. They were very hoity-toity.
Right.
Very elitist about the wanting blank canvases to work with.
Right.
And they had they said, okay. The audition began with these 2 people. They said, don't be nervous about us. We're not important.
Were they in clown makeup?
They were not.
Okay.
They were not.
Okay.
They said, don't be nervous about us. We're not important. We're just clowns. But this camera we're holding is the eyes and ears of someone who's very important, whose time we're not going to waste.
Oh.
So please line up against the wall one by one. You jump in front of the camera and you say your name and why you want to be a clown. And then you get out of the way. We make this quick. We're not going to waste time here. And so people are like kind of wandering in front of the camera saying, oh, I'm really looking for a big pair of shoes.
Oh,
so
jokes.
Yeah, and I'm just like, because now I jump in front of the camera and I say, my name is Steve Glover. I'm an aspiring stuntman from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I just got done hitchhiking all the way from Albuquerque because I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if I missed out on the biggest opportunity I ever had.
Wow.
And I did a perfect standing backflip and got out of the way.
Close it out?
Yeah, well, that was just my intro. Then they did these exercises, which were just impossible. There was I recall the first one. They said, okay, now we're going to do an exercise where there's an imaginary line down the middle of your body.
Okay.
The right half of your body is a lazy cow grazing in a field. And the left half of your body is a wild baboon throwing a temper tantrum. Now, go.
Oh, Jesus.
So, that's an impossible feat to perform.
Yeah, you
but,
can't be both at the same time.
Right.
You had to figure out how to do that.
Right, but the objective on their end was to weed out the inhibited.
It's the people who wouldn't try to be them.
It was just people who were ready to just go for the impossible, and and so it was kind of a wild deal. And and I got in. I healed like Wolverine, so
Did you really?
No issue. And that's just how I do. And while I was in clown college, the first issue of Big Brother with me in it came out.
Oh wow!
And Big Brother also it endeared me to Big Brother the fact that I was a clown.